welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Nice to meet you as well, because I think we've followed each other on socials for a bit now, so it's nice to meet you in person.
Sure.
So do you want to just tell us a little bit about yourself, what you're about, that sort of thing?
I am an architectural designer. I work in kind of the realms of architecture and set design for kind of music events. As well as that, I am studying my Masters in Architecture right now. I'm also a poet and a writer, and recently became a board member at the Manchester International Festival, so I'm a trustee for them. So I'm just kind of fingers in different pies at the minute.
No, but that's really cool. I had no idea that you were involved in architecture. Like, that's such an interesting field. Like, I've always, like, how has it been, like, studying that for so long?
Mate, it's dragging on, I tell you. It's
really?
a 7-year course. That 7 years is really kicking in.
So how many years are you into it now then?
It's 5 years into it, so
Okay.
almost there. But I mean, the more I do it, you know, it's one of those things where the more you do it, the more you hate it.
Yeah.
Which is why I kind of started to diversify more into where my interests do lie, and that's more in set design, and it always was. So that's the kind of world that I imagine myself going into, really, more once I've finished with this degree and qualified,
No, but that is such a cool area to go into as well, because obviously music videos, they're art, aren't they? Essentially, like, you can have your basic ones, which are maybe involving like just like a very basic backdrop and stuff like that.
It's not even music videos, it's live events. So
okay.
yeah.
Well, even that then, like, obviously you have some live sets that will just have like a simple, like, not that much tube, and you have some that are literally like
fully immersive experiences where you're really kind of, you bridge that gap between the audience and the artist, and you really kind of put the audience at the forefront of that experience and really enhance what that experience can be.
Sure. I've got a question then. If you, like, who would be your dream artist that you would want to do a live set design for, if you could do anyone?
That's a really good question. And I already got the answer. Beyonce.
Yeah.
I mean, it's this, yeah.
Yeah.
Do we say anything more than that, really?
That's a lot of pressure, though, you know, Beyonce.
You know, you want to go for the big names, innit?
Yeah, fair enough. Well, focusing on what you were saying before about Manchester International Festival, do you mind just explaining to me what exactly it is? Like, so you're a board member, a trustee, what does that mean?
Yeah, so I was recently appointed as that, and I feel like it's good for young people to understand what a board actually is when it comes to organisations, because I didn't really know much about it myself. But basically, you imagine boards to be like kind of old white men around a table.
More often than not.
Yeah. And that's what majority are, to be fair. However, the purpose of a board is that you are essentially a bridge, especially if you're a charity. You're the bridge between that kind of the charities commission and the organisation, and you basically keep everything in check, and all kind of large decisions get put through from the executive team to you and the non-executive team, which is the board, and we then make the decisions about what the organisation should do to move forward. So we're actually opening a huge venue in town in Manchester, the Factory, which is on the old Granada Studios set, and it's essentially going to be like this huge warehouse for immersive performances, and because it's international, it's going to be basically bringing in loads of international artists as well as local artists to create within that space. And it's a really exciting time at M.I.F at the moment. But M.I.F within itself, outside of that, is a 2-year it's a festival that happens every 2 years in the city, and it's something that started in 2007, I'm going to say. So it was back of the Commonwealth Games and stuff that, you know, that there was a lot of hype around the city. So this came off the back of that, and it's a cultural festival that takes place where you basically put in, as cringy as it sounds, Manny on the map.
No, you know what? It doesn't sound cringe when people from Manchester say, you know what I mean? Like, when you say in a Mancunian accent, that's fine. But no, it's really cool. How were you sourced, or did you apply? Like,
so I'm actually part of the Young People's Forum at M.I.F. So what that is we're a group of young people, and we're like the young consultants for the festival. And essentially the way the festival works is there's a lot of engagement with the community. So the whole idea is we want everybody to have a piece of this and all feel welcome to the festival and experience different types of art forms, music. You kind of have your big name artists. You know, last year in the last festival you had kind of Arlo Parks debuting her album at the GMX, or whatever it's called now.
Manchester Central, that building there.
Damon Albarn, kind of your big name artists, and you have Festival Square, which is the public space where you have kind of all the local performers come and perform there throughout the 2 weeks that the festival's on in the city. And then you have the free stuff and around the city. You probably will have seen the odd thing, but it's one of those where I think traditionally it was like if you know you know sort of thing, whereas now they're really trying to make it something that is everyone can all come together and really enjoy this festival that celebrates our city. Yeah, no,
definitely, it's such a cool thing to be a part of as well, because it's not just music as well, is it, right?
No, it's all different types of art forms, dance, architecture, all sorts, kind of immersive performances, playing with VR, kind of really, and not just that, they really are trying to push what the future of arts looks like within the city, and getting more and more people into not just artists, but also getting people to understand that there's jobs in production, there's other jobs in the creative arts, and allowing them space to get to work on some of those projects and kind of help young people decide what kind of careers they want to go into.
Sure.
Yeah.
So now that you're obviously a member of the board, where is it that you sort of like, what's your angle in this? Like, where do you sort of, obviously it's not, it's a board, so there's multiple people, but when you're sort of having these conversations, what are you particularly pushing for?
So to put it into context, this board is made up of many bigwigs. You've got like the CEO of kind of the Tate in London, ex-CEO of South Bank. You've got Gary Neville's on the board. You've got just a real range of people who work in the arts and kind of top level know their stuff. People from the council. So me being kind of the youngest person in that room, and not just that, I mean, I'm a Muslim, right? And I find generally within art spaces that a lot of Muslims don't tend to engage as much within certain public realms within arts, and that's where I'm finding my angle coming in from. So, you know, when it comes to breaking down diversity and understanding demographics that they're trying to outreach to and engage with, that's essentially why I was brought in the first place, was for them to understand why they had a lack of engagement from kind of Muslim communities in and around the city in their last festival, and bring a young perspective to the board. So, I mean, there's a lot of big word jargon stuff that we focus on, because it isn't the kind of the little things really, it's sort of the bigger picture of the whole organisation. But then it will kind of be like the nuances in that, so picking up on, like, for example, where it might be focusing on diversity or demographics of people, it's like, well, actually, have you included Muslims into that? So do they know that this is available for them too? Or when it comes to selecting artists that we want to have, because I guess everything's about inclusivity now, isn't it? How do we make things as inclusive as possible? And that's kind of got its pros and its cons, I think. But I
think the main con is when it sort of gets to a stage where it's very obvious that people are just doing it for the sake of it rather than actually caring about
exactly.
Like inclusivity.
It's a really hard thing to balance, because you can either go completely left and completely sort of, we want to include everyone, so we need to have something for everybody, and then how specific do you get with that? Versus kind of okay, well, if they're not interested, they're not interested. But M.I.F isn't like that. They're very much like, we want to outreach and we want it to be as authentic and genuine as possible. We don't want to just put a name in for the sake of it. So if you have any recommendations, if you know anybody, that sort of thing, or if you think that, if you know of any artists and they know the best in the industry, so they know kind of what will work, what won't work, but also experimenting with that. So trying something different, see if that brings a new crowd in. So yeah, that's kind of sort of the angle that I come into it, is to kind of, I don't want to say bridge that gap, because who am I, do you know what I'm saying? But more so, everyone needs a Jamal the intern. Do you get me?
Yeah, definitely.
The person who will keep him in check a bit and be like, should that really have gone that far down? Was no one there to flag this up? You know, with most organisations, people do mess up along the way. I'm not saying that I'm that person, but I will play that person a little bit, because that's also my culture, and that's my heritage, and that's my understanding. So, and that's very valued in a space like that, where they want people from completely different backgrounds in a room together to be able to express what the needs and wants are from those different neighbourhoods and communities. Yeah.
No, for sure. And like, it is, I think it's really good that you're in that position and you're doing that, but then also that you're also aware of, okay, I don't want to be sort of taken as, because like you say, you saying that you're brought in to sort of create this sense of understanding as to why certain communities aren't engaging with it, but at the same time you don't want that to just be it.
Well, it's not even that, it's more like, what is a community? When we break the fundamentals down, it's like, what brings a group of people together, and there's so many different nuances in that. You can't have one person representing a community, like, period. Like, that's not how it works, and I think that's a lazy approach to it. But also, I mean, take away that element of it. We're opening a building, I do architecture, I work in performance, I'm a performer myself, so my kind of experiences in that realm is also really useful to them. So, and I guess I'm learning a lot as well. It's an opportunity for me to be in these real world scenarios and understand that away from the education world.
Yeah. No, it definitely makes sense. So when you say it's every 2 years, am I correct in thinking that it isn't happening?
It's not this year, it'll be next year.
That explains a lot, because when obviously you were coming on, I was looking into it and I was a bit confused.
There's something going on right now. No, it's every odd year.
Yeah.
So 23 and then 25.
Nice. Yeah. So obviously your I know you're saying you're not trademarking Faz, but your Instagram Faz MCR. What if people want to follow you on like socials, and obviously I imagine you'll post a bit of updates about M.I.F, but what else can they sort of expect from
me? I'm trying to cut down on socials altogether, to be quite honest with you. So you're only going to get me on you're only going to get me on Instagram. I mean, we're all trying to cut down on socials, aren't we? Really, it's really bad. It's not good for you and all the cliche stuff.
Like 15 hours screen time.
Yeah, literally. That, But I mean, I am on Instagram quite a lot. That's like my downfall in life. But what would you see of me on there? I usually just post kind of. I'm always doing stuff. So I write, I'm a poet, and I'm performing next week in London at National Theatre as part of Young Identity, yeah, you'll just usually see me either on stage or behind the stage, or kind of. I mean, I live in London, so I'll be doing stuff there. You'll see a bit of set design stuff potentially. Just kind of the mix of who I am as a person, really.
For sure.
Yeah.
So just to reiterate for the people, what is it again?
It's quite easy. Faz MCR.
Nice.
On Instagram. You ain't finding me nowhere else because I'm deleting everything else.